of union management together.
Engaging parents is critically important, but the people who are served by schools every day, who either benefit from them or struggle with presence or lack of resources, are our students. And I'd like Adeola to sort of comment on if we are trying to strengthen engagement of all, adults, parents, what should we do to support youth, and what can they contribute to this conversation about school transformation, school turnaround? Adeola.
I was just sitting here thinking as just the opening remarks were happening, thinking about how I speak to students every day, and I work with them at Youth in Action, and there are a number of different community groups, many of whom are in the audience, who hear the voices of students every day and hear the frustration about how it seems very much like the adults are arguing across the nation about education. And those are the conversations that they hear about teaching and learning, is arguments about, things that are not relevant to them. And I think it's a challenge because they have a lot to say about what they'd like adults to be taught, what they would rather adults focus on. And so one of the difficult things is making sure that we introduce opportunities for young people to be more meaningfully involved in these conversations. In Providence, there are really great examples of organizations out in the community who are doing that. At Youth in Action, we believe that young people really truly need to be co-constructors of their environments, not consumers, and not sitting on the sidelines. And so I would love to see policies created that would allow for schools to meaningfully engage students and parents in conversations from the beginning. It's very difficult for us to be invited to forums and in situations where schools are being turned around, where the pace of change is too quick for us to be meaningfully involved. And students want to be involved and included in the decisions from the beginning. We want to be, our students want to make sure that they can speak to how policies live in the classroom. A lot of the times, people making decisions about the lowest performing schools have never actually experienced what it's like to be in a low performing school. I remember growing up here in Providence, being 13 and recognizing that there were very specific moments that I saw my education falling behind. I knew exactly when I was falling behind in math. I knew the chapter, I knew the classroom, and I wanted to speak up and I wanted to have a say in how to make that different. And the real urgency existed with me. It existed because I knew that I wanted to get to college, but I wasn't sure how I was going to get there. And so we speak with a lot of students every day who feel the same way, who want to be engaged. The good thing is that there are a number of students who are ready to be engaged at a higher level. And I think that we need to grow that capacity throughout the country to make sure that every student's ready to be engaged, and that schools and districts are asked to do that. Right now, I think the way policies are designed to move quickly, it's great because there's urgency, and I think students appreciate that, but there's not the urgency that includes them being able to say, here's what's broken for me. And I think that's what's missing, and we really need to shift that.
I think it's a great, great point. And whether it's at the school level, where I think every principal should have a council of students who are advising them, whether it's at the district level, and I had an amazing group of students that worked with me on policies in Chicago and pushed my thinking very, very hard and actually helped to shape what we did in a number of different ways. That student voice is critically important. I want to be clear, not just at the high school level, but in middle school and elementary school. And I think when we shut those voices out or don't include them, we miss a huge source of ideas and inspiration and just frankly reality. To your point, the further you get away from the classroom, the more distance you have from young people, the harder it is to make a good policy decision. And so whatever we can do collectively to have that voice on the table on all sorts of things. I wouldn't just say in policy, but I'm a big believer in peer juries and having students take ownership for discipline challenges in their school and really starting to be part of the solution. In Chicago, we saw huge reductions in violence in schools where students were helping to create a climate where that kind of behavior wasn't acceptable, and sort of very non-traditional ways of thinking about this. So please push us. Please have the students continue to push us. And the more they are actively engaged at every level, district level, school level, state level, national level. It's tougher. I'll tell you what I try and do is, because of a big country, I try and do periodic conference calls with students around the country. But I tell you, I do miss the hands-on feel of getting to know a set of 15, 20 students very, very well and meeting with them month after month. Haven't quite figured out how to replicate that in Washington. But whatever you can do to make sure students' voices are heard, that would be hugely important. And the final thing is, I think ultimately students have to take ownership for their own education. And where things are going well, that's fantastic. Where things aren't going well, they have to speak up. They have to challenge us. And I think there's been, unfortunately, a passivity. Maybe we haven't listened well enough. But students should be, when they're, dropout rates of 50, 60%, students need to be demanding something much better for themselves and something better for their community. And I wish we had more of that pressure. I wish we had more of that voice being heard. We don't want to move so fast that we're not listening. But I think the historic problem is we haven't moved at all. We've moved at a snail's pace, and we haven't done the right thing by young people.
I just want to add, you're more than welcome to come have a tour of the community with me here in Providence, because there are really great examples of best practice here for how to create youth-driven spaces. And it's not just Youth in Action, it's a number of other really strong organizations who I think are model for our schools. Our classrooms, and even at the federal level, do you have a group of students regularly advising you? I believe that your policy making should be created in partnership with young people, and we can show you examples of youth-adult partnerships that are strong. And just lastly, Providence students are saying, there are solutions that they're putting forth. We're part of a coalition of young people called the Youth for Change Alliance, and those students created a Youth Bill of Rights for the city. And they've outlined what they'd like to see policy issues in debates. They've outlined what they'd like to see those conversations look like. And I'd invite you to take a look at this and really understand the issues, and also to sign on in support of the efforts that are happening.